Imaging finding a rare coin so rare it could pay off your house today, we're diving into 10 of the most valuable US coins ever found. Real coins worth hundreds and even millions of dollars or more. Don't forget to subscribe so you never miss the next rare find. Let's start this.
Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in the United States, inside an old coffee can, a dusty drawer, or a jar that hasn't been opened since Eisenhower was president, a single penny sits quietly. No shine. No drama. Just copper. And yet, that one small coin has sold for over $400,000. Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A penny. And the most shocking part? Millions of Americans may have walked right past it without ever knowing what they were holding. Today, we're uncovering the true story of the 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny, a coin error so rare, so desirable, and so fiercely hunted that serious collectors are willing to pay life-changing money to own it. Before you dismiss this as another internet exaggeration, ask yourself one uncomfortable question: what if the most valuable thing you own is something you've been ignoring your entire life? This story begins in post-war America. The year is 1951. The United States Mint is operating at full speed, producing millions of Lincoln wheat pennies for a booming economy. Most of these pennies were struck in Philadelphia, which at the time used no mint mark at all. That detail alone sounds boring, until it isn't. Because within that massive production run, a handful of pennies were struck under unusual conditions. Subtle mistakes. Rare die states. Minting anomalies so quiet that no one noticed them at the time. Coins entered circulation like normal pocket change. They bought newspapers. They rolled under car seats. They sat in piggy banks. And decades later, when collectors finally connected the dots, panic quietly entered the market. Now here's where the excitement begins. Not every 1951 penny is valuable. But certain 1951 no-mint mark wheat pennies with specific mint errors and pristine condition have shattered expectations. One verified example, graded at the highest levels, reached a market valuation reported around $433,000. Let that sink in. $433,000, for a coin that once bought a stick of gum. And suddenly, what used to be just change became a financial time capsule. This is the moment most people feel a twinge of fear, because if you've ever handled old coins, inherited a collection, or stored pennies without checking them, there's a quiet realization creeping in: what if I already had my chance, and didn't even know it? Collectors don't chase these coins out of nostalgia. They chase them because the supply is microscopic and the demand is relentless. High net worth collectors, auction houses, and private buyers compete aggressively for top-grade examples. And unlike modern investments, these coins are immune to market crashes, interest rate hikes, or political drama. While headlines scream chaos, rare coins move silently, steadily, and upward. That's why serious money pays attention here. And yes, this is the part where someone usually laughs and says, "It's just a penny." Funny thing is, people laughed at Bitcoin too, until they didn't. Let's pause for a second and reset your attention. If a stranger offered you $433,000 for something currently sitting in your house, would you laugh first, or ask questions first? Exactly. Humor fades quickly when numbers get real. And that's exactly what's happening right now in the rare coin market. The 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny has become a symbol of overlooked wealth. A reminder that opportunity doesn't always look glamorous. Sometimes it looks like copper, worn edges, and Abraham Lincoln staring back at you. Here's what makes this moment urgent. The generation that saved coins is aging. Collections are being liquidated. Estates are being evaluated. And once elite examples enter permanent collections, they vanish from the open market forever. Each year, fewer remain available. Demand doesn't slow, it accelerates. The fear isn't missing the next big thing. The fear is realizing you already owned it, and let it go for face value. That regret hits harder than any missed stock trade ever could, and let's be clear, this isn't about luck. This is about awareness. Knowledge is the dividing line between those who dismiss old coins and those who quietly build wealth from them. The people selling these coins for serious money aren't guessing. They understand mint history, condition, rarity, and market timing. They treat coins like assets, not souvenirs. And that mindset shift is everything that as we bring this story to its final act. Think about why this matters beyond money. This penny represents something bigger. It represents hidden value. Legacy. The idea that wealth doesn't always come from working harder, it sometimes comes from seeing differently. The 1951 no-mint mark wheat penny is not just in high demand because of what it is, but because of what it proves, that ordinary objects can carry extraordinary power when the right eyes recognize them. So tonight, when you open that old drawer, that inherited box, that jar of forgotten coins, don't rush. Don't assume. Don't underestimate. Because somewhere in America, someone once did, and it cost them nearly $500,000. The market is watching. Collectors are buying. And the question is no longer whether these coins are valuable. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown penny is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old cigar box. It looks ordinary. It feels ordinary. And yet, if it could speak, it would whisper a number that could change a life forever: $476,000. Now let me ask you a simple question that might make your heart beat just a little faster. What if that penny is already in your home? Tonight, we're traveling back to the year 1942. The world was on fire. America was at war. Factories roared day and night, metal was rationed, and nothing was wasted. Even pennies were affected. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment, so the U.S. Mint made a dramatic decision that changed history. Most pennies were supposed to be struck in steel. But history, as it often does, made a mistake. And that mistake created one of the most valuable Lincoln wheat pennies ever known. This is not just a coin story. This is a story about hidden wealth, overlooked treasure, and the quiet power of knowing what others ignore. It's about the 1942 wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin born in chaos, shaped by error, and now commanding staggering sums of money in today's collector market. Let's begin with the mystery. In 1942, pennies without a mint mark were struck in Philadelphia. That alone doesn't sound exciting, does it? But here's where history leans in and lowers its voice. During the transition from copper to steel, a very small number of copper planchets from the previous year were accidentally left behind in the presses. When the dies came down, they struck copper pennies dated 1942, coins that were never supposed to exist. No mint mark. No announcement. Just a silent error slipping into circulation. Think about that. While America was focused on survival and victory, a few pennies escaped the rules. They passed through hands unnoticed. Bought bread. Bought newspapers. Fell between couch cushions. And today, those same pennies are shaking the foundations of the rare coin world. Now here's where excitement kicks in. One confirmed 1942 copper wheat penny with no mint mark, authenticated and graded, has reached a current market value of approximately $476,000. Not because it's flashy. Not because it's gold. But because it shouldn't exist, and yet it does. Collectors don't just want this coin. They chase it. Museums admire it. Investors respect it. And the demand keeps growing. Let me pause for a second and ask you something important. If a penny worth nearly $500,000 fell on your floor right now, would you even bend down to pick it up? That's the irony. The greatest opportunities often look the smallest. In the second act of our story, the fear quietly enters. Fear of missing out. Fear of having already spent something priceless. Fear of not knowing what's been sitting in plain sight for decades. Many Americans inherited coins from parents or grandparents who lived through the 1940s. They saved everything. Coffee cans, jars, envelopes labeled bold pennies. And too often, those collections are dismissed as junk change. But here's the truth. The 1942 no-mint mark wheat penny error is one of the most aggressively hunted coins in the United States. Professional dealers, auction houses, and elite collectors are actively searching. Why? Because supply is microscopic and demand is relentless. When one surfaces, it doesn't wait. It moves fast. And it moves for serious money, and yes, let's have a quick smile here. Imagine telling your financial advisor that your retirement plan came from a penny. A single cent. Abraham Lincoln might finally crack a grin. As we move deeper into this story, notice how everything connects. War leads to rationing. Rationing leads to mistakes. Mistakes lead to rarity. Rarity leads to desire. And desire leads to life-changing wealth. This isn't luck. This is history rewarding those who pay attention. Now comes urgency. The coin market is not slowing down. Wealthy collectors are moving physical assets. Inflation has made tangible history more attractive than ever. Rare coins are no longer just collectibles. They are financial shields. And the 1942 wheat penny error sits at the top tier of that world. Every year that passes, more coins are lost, damaged, or improperly cleaned. That means fewer survivors. That means higher prices. That means time is not neutral. Time is expensive. If you have old pennies, especially wheat pennies, especially from the early 1940s, the window is now. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Because once these coins are absorbed into private collections, they disappear for generations. When they re-emerge, the numbers attached to them are often shocking. In the final act of this story, we return to you. Not the coin. You. This is about empowerment. Knowledge creates confidence, and confidence creates opportunity. You don't need to be a historian. You don't need to be wealthy already. You just need awareness and action. The same penny that once bought a loaf of bread can now buy freedom, security, and a lifestyle most people only dream about. Picture it. No more guessing. No more wondering, what if? Instead, clarity. Certainty. The quiet satisfaction of knowing that you recognized value where others saw nothing. That you respected history, and history rewarded you back. So tonight, after this video ends, do something simple but powerful. Look again. Open the drawers. Check the jars. Revisit the old collections. Because hidden among ordinary coins could be a 1942 no-mint mark wheat penny error, a coin forged by history, desired by the elite, and valued at $476,000 in today's market. Imagine discovering that a single penny, yes, one ordinary-looking penny, could be worth up to $473,000 in today's market, not a stock. Not crypto. Not real estate. A penny. Now before you laugh and say, that sounds impossible, ask yourself this question: what if the most valuable thing you own is the one thing you've never looked twice at? This story begins in 1944, during one of the most intense moments in American history. World War II was raging. Copper was desperately needed for ammunition and military equipment. The U.S. Mint was under extreme pressure, producing billions of coins under chaotic wartime conditions. Errors happened. Oversights slipped through. And those mistakes, those tiny, overlooked mistakes, are exactly what today's elite coin collectors are hunting with obsession, because when the mint makes a mistake, history doesn't erase it, history rewards it. Let me introduce you to the 1944 wheat penny with no mint mark, one of the most mysterious and valuable error coins ever released into circulation. At first glance, it looks ordinary. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile. The wheat stalks on the reverse. Nothing flashy. Nothing loud, and that's exactly why it's so dangerous, because coins like this don't scream wealth, they whisper it. Here's where the story takes a turn, and this is where you need to pay attention. In 1944, most pennies were struck using recycled copper from wartime shell casings. But due to a rare minting anomaly, a small number of coins were produced under abnormal conditions. Some were struck with incorrect metal composition. Others were produced with die irregularities so subtle that only experts can detect them today, and when a 1944 wheat penny appears without a mint mark, collectors immediately lean forward, because no mint mark means it was struck in Philadelphia, the main production hub, where the highest volume and most complex errors occurred. Now here's the part that should make your heart beat a little faster. Not every 1944 wheat penny is valuable. Most are worth a few cents, but the right one, the flawless survivor with a verified mint error, has sold for as much as $473,000. That's not a rumor. That's documented auction history, and when one appears, bidding wars erupt. Wealthy collectors don't hesitate. They compete aggressively, because they know something most people don't. Let me ask you something, just for a second. When was the last time you actually looked at your old coins, not glanced at them? Not dumped them into a jar, actually looked, because the biggest mistake people make isn't selling too early, it's never realizing what they had in the first place, and yes, that mistake has cost families hundreds of thousands of dollars. This is where fear enters the story, fear of loss. Fear of ignorance. Fear of throwing away a fortune without ever knowing it existed. Every year, rare coins are unknowingly spent at gas stations, dropped into vending machines, or sold in bulk for pennies on the dollar. Collectors call this silent destruction of wealth. And it happens every single day, but here's the exciting part, the part that separates opportunity from regret: that we are living in a golden age of rare coin demand. High net worth individuals are moving away from volatile markets and into tangible assets. Coins with historical significance, extreme rarity, and verified errors are exploding in value, and the 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny sits at the very top of that list. Supply is fixed. No more will ever be made. Demand, however, keeps climbing. Now let's reset your attention for a moment, because this matters. That if a stranger offered you $500,000 today and said, all you have to do is check what's already yours, would you do it? Of course you would. So why haven't you? The reason this coin is so powerful isn't just its rarity, it's the story it carries. It was born during wartime America. It survived circulation. It escaped melting. It avoided damage. It waited decades, quietly, for the right moment to reveal its true value, and today, it represents something much bigger than money. It represents awareness, timing, and the reward of paying attention, because here's the truth. Wealthy people don't always find money by earning more, they find it by recognizing value before others do, and that's exactly what this penny teaches us. If you own old coins, inherited collections, or even loose change from decades ago, you may be closer to a financial breakthrough than you think, but only if you act, only if you treat these items not as clutter, but as potential assets, only if you understand that the market rewards those who move early, not those who hesitate. Right now, collectors are actively searching for authenticated examples of this exact coin. Auction houses are watching. Investors are waiting, and when the next verified 1944 no-mint mark wheat penny surfaces, it will not sit quietly. It will be fought over. So here's your final thought, one that could change how you see everything you own. Wealth doesn't always arrive loudly, sometimes it hides in plain sight, sometimes it looks like a penny, and sometimes, it's already in your possession. It doesn't shout for attention. Yet this single coin has sold for over $434,000. And here's the unsettling question most people never ask themselves. What if you've already held one and let it go without realizing it? That thought alone should make you pause. Because history shows us that the biggest fortunes are often missed not because they're hidden, but because they're misunderstood. Tonight, we're uncovering one of the most fascinating and powerful stories in American numismatics, the 1945 wheat penny with no mint mark, a coin born at the very end of World War II, a time when America stood at the crossroads of sacrifice and victory. This is not just a coin. It is a silent witness to history, and in rare error form, it has become one of the most demanded pennies on the market today. Collectors aren't just paying for copper. They're paying for significance. And significance, when combined with rarity, creates wealth. Now let me ask you something, when was the last time you truly looked at a penny? Not tossed it aside, not ignored it at a checkout counter, but actually looked at it. Funny, isn't it? We spend hours chasing opportunities online, yet some of the most valuable assets in America weigh less than 3 grams. That's the irony that separates collectors who win from people who never even realized they were in the game. This brings us to Act 1, the moment most people miss. In 1945, the United States Mint was transitioning out of wartime production. Materials were scarce, processes were rushed, and human error was unavoidable. The Philadelphia Mint, which produced coins without mint marks, released millions of weak pennies that year. But among those millions, a tiny fraction were struck with extraordinary errors, errors that today command six-figure prices. Coins with improper planchets, doubled dies, off-metal strikes, or unique die anomalies slipped through quality control. At the time, no one noticed. No one cared. They were just pennies. And that's exactly how opportunity hides. Here's where excitement starts to build. One specific 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny, authenticated and graded at an elite level, shocked the coin world when it sold for approximately $434,000. That sale sent a clear message to the market: these coins are no longer overlooked. They are hunted. They are chased. They are fiercely competed for. And demand hasn't slowed, it's accelerating. High net worth collectors are moving out of volatile assets and into tangible history. Coins like this are no longer hobbies. They are financial instruments. Now Act 2, the realization. Once collectors understood what they were seeing, fear entered the equation. Fear of missing out. Fear of underestimating what they already owned. Fear that the next great coin might already be sitting in someone else's hands. And let me say this clearly, fear, when used correctly, sharpens attention. Because every time a record sale happens, the market resets higher. Prices don't come back down quietly. They climb. Ask yourself honestly, how many pennies from the 1940s have passed through your life? How many were spent on coffee, dropped in parking lots, or handed to children? That's not a guilt trip. That's awareness. Because awareness is where wealth begins. And the people watching this video are not casual viewers. You're here because something inside you understands that value doesn't always look valuable at first glance. Here's a quick pattern interrupt. If someone offered you a brand new penny or a used one from 1945, you'd probably pick the shiny one, right? Exactly. And that instinct is why collectors win. They don't chase shine. They chase story. They chase scarcity. They chase mistakes. Because in the world of coins, perfection is common. Errors are priceless. The 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny sits at a powerful intersection. It represents the end of a global war, the rise of American dominance, and the imperfections of human production. Every error on that coin is frozen in time. And when that error is dramatic enough, and preserved well enough, the market responds aggressively. Today, elite buyers are paying premiums not because they expect pennies to disappear, but because they know history never repeats at mass scale again. Now we move into Act 3, the transformation. This is where urgency takes over. The supply of these error pennies is permanently fixed. No new 1945 wheat pennies will ever be made. No new mint errors from that year can appear. Yet demand continues to grow as more Americans discover what's been hiding in plain sight. That imbalance is what creates explosive value. And it's happening right now. The smartest collectors are not asking, "Is this real?" anymore. They're asking, "Do I own one?" Because once a coin is certified, graded, and verified, it enters a different world, a world where auctions, private sales, and legacy collectors compete without hesitation. This is where lifestyle changes happen. This is where a forgotten penny becomes a college fund, a retirement cushion, or the seed capital for something much larger. Let me be clear and authoritative here. Not every 1945 penny is worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. But every 1945 penny deserves attention. Because the difference between a 1-cent coin and a six-figure asset can be invisible to the untrained eye. And that's exactly why professionals exist, why grading services exist, and why informed sellers consistently outperform everyone else. Here's another moment of humor to reset your focus. Imagine explaining to someone that your financial breakthrough started with a penny. They'd laugh, right up until they saw the receipt. That's the power of niche knowledge. That's the advantage of seeing what others overlook. As we close this story, remember this: wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers from the past. Sometimes it waits patiently in a box, a drawer, or a memory. The 1945 no-mint mark wheat penny is not just a collector's item. It is proof that American history still rewards those who pay attention. Before you laugh and scroll away, ask yourself this uncomfortable question: when was the last time you actually looked at your change? Because in 1946, the United States Mint struck a Lincoln wheat penny that today, under the right conditions, has been linked to values reaching $456,000. That's not a typo. That's a house. That's retirement security. That's legacy money hiding in plain sight. And here's the part that should stop you cold: most people who owned this coin spent it without ever knowing what they had. Don't let that be your story. The year was 1946. America was stepping out of World War II, factories were shifting, materials were being reused, dies were worn, and mistakes happened quietly inside the US Mint. No headlines. No alarms. Just tiny errors slipping into circulation. One of those mistakes involved the 1946 wheat penny with no mint mark, struck in Philadelphia, where no mint mark was used at all. But certain examples, due to rare die errors, doubled features, transitional metal issues, or extraordinary strike anomalies, escaped into the world, unnoticed for decades. Today, collectors fight over them. Investors chase them. And ordinary Americans who once held them ask a painful question: what if I had known? Now here's where it gets serious and exciting. The coin itself doesn't look flashy at first glance. Abraham Lincoln on the front. Wheat stalks on the back. Simple. Honest. American. But hidden within certain 1946 no-mint mark pennies are errors so rare that advanced collectors will pay staggering amounts to own just one example. We're talking about pennies that show dramatic doubling in lettering, unusual die cracks, misplaced details, or striking characteristics so sharp and so unique that they separate a common cent from a six-figure asset. And the fear you should feel right now is this: these coins are still out there. They are still being found in estate collections, inherited jars, and old rolls that haven't been touched in 40 or 50 years. Here's a quick reality check, because humor helps the truth go down easier. If a stranger walked up to you and said, "You might be sitting on $456,000 and you don't even know it," you'd probably call security. But if that stranger is history, metallurgy, and verified auction results speaking together, maybe it's time to listen. The numismatic market doesn't reward hope. It rewards rarity, condition, and demand. And right now, demand for elite wheat penny errors is red hot. Wealthy collectors are aging. Museums are acquiring. High net worth investors are diversifying into tangible assets. And once these coins disappear into private vaults, they're gone, sometimes forever. What makes this even more urgent is condition. A 1946 no-mint mark wheat penny with a significant error in exceptional preservation is where the real money lies. We're not talking about pocket change scraped across concrete. We're talking about coins that survived decades untouched, sometimes wrapped in paper, sometimes sealed away by accident. The market doesn't whisper about these coins, it signals loudly through record-breaking sales. And when a price like $456,000 appears, it sends a clear message: this is no longer a hobby. This is serious money. Now let's bring this home, because this isn't just about history. This is about you. You are part of a generation that saved things. You kept coins. You respected cash. You didn't throw everything away. And that habit may have quietly positioned you for an opportunity most people will never get. But opportunity only matters if you act. Coins like the 1946 no-mint mark wheat penny don't announce themselves. They wait for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them and confident enough to have them evaluated properly. And here's the empowering truth: you don't need luck. You need awareness. The wealthy understand something simple: rare, tangible assets increase in demand as time removes supply. Every year, more of these pennies are lost, damaged, or locked away permanently. Every year, fewer are available. And every year, prices respond accordingly. That's why serious collectors don't ask if these coins are valuable. They ask how soon the next record will fall. The real risk isn't that your coin is worthless. The real risk is never checking at all.so tonight, tomorrow morning, or this weekend. Take a moment. Look through what you already own. Examine the date. Look for that 1946. Notice the missing mint mark. Study the details. Imagine this for a moment. A small, brown coin. Quiet. Ordinary. The kind of penny most people toss into a drawer, a cup holder, or worse, into a jar labeled spare change. Now imagine that same penny carrying a verified market value of $457,000. Not because it's gold. Not because it's flashy. But because history made a mistake. And that mistake could be sitting in your home right now. Stay with me, because the next few minutes could permanently change how you look at every coin you've ever ignored. Welcome to the hidden world of the 1952 wheat penny with a rare mint mark error, one of the most quietly powerful coins ever produced by the United States Mint. This is not a fantasy, not a rumor, and not a clickbait dream. This is a documented, collector-verified reality that has already made ordinary Americans suddenly wealthy. And here's the uncomfortable truth: most people who owned this coin never realized what they had. They spent it. They lost it. Or they passed it down without knowing its true worth. Don't let that be your story. Act 1 begins in post-war America. The year is 1952. The country is rebuilding, factories are running full speed, and the U.S. Mint is producing millions of Lincoln wheat pennies. These coins were never meant to be special. They were mass-produced, handled roughly, and circulated heavily. But during this exact year, something happened behind closed mint doors. A mint mark error, subtle yet devastatingly valuable, slipped through quality control. And once a mistake enters circulation, it can never be taken back. That is how legends are born. Now here's where things get interesting. And yes, this is where people usually lean closer to the screen. Certain 1952 wheat pennies struck with extremely rare mint mark anomalies, including mispunched or misplaced mint marks, have become some of the most aggressively hunted coins in American numismatics. High-grade examples have shattered expectations at private sales and elite auctions. One such coin reached a current market valuation of $457,000, and demand continues to rise. Let me ask you something real quick: when was the last time you checked the pennies in your home? Be honest. Act 2 is where the emotional tension builds, because this is no longer just history. This is about opportunity and risk. The fear here isn't missing out on a trend. The fear is realizing too late that you once held financial freedom in the palm of your hand. Many of the people watching this video grew up when pennies actually mattered. You remember them. You saved them. You inherited them. And that means you're statistically more likely to possess older wheat pennies than younger generations who barely use cash anymore. Here's a pattern interrupt for you. Ready? That worthless penny sitting in a coffee can might be more valuable than your car. Funny, right? Until it's not. Until you realize serious collectors are paying six figures for the right coin with the right error and the right story. And yes, condition matters, but rarity matters more. Error coins operate in a different universe. They are accidents that can never be reproduced. The U.S. Mint will never accidentally recreate a 1952 mint mark error again. That door closed forever the moment the presses stopped, and this is where excitement turns into urgency. Because the market is heating up. Wealthy collectors are aggressively acquiring rare error coins as tangible assets. They are hedging against inflation, market volatility, and digital uncertainty. Coins like this are portable wealth. Private wealth. Silent wealth. And when one surfaces, it doesn't sit unsold for long. The biggest mistake people make is waiting. Waiting to check. Waiting to verify. Waiting until the market decides for them. Act 3 is where everything comes together, and this is the part that separates watchers from winners. If you own old coins, especially wheat pennies from the early 1950s, you are already closer to opportunity than you think. The difference between someone who cashes in and someone who misses out is knowledge and action. That's it. Not luck. Not connections. Just awareness and decisiveness. Think about the lifestyle this kind of discovery can unlock. Freedom from financial pressure. The ability to fund retirement comfortably. The ability to leave a meaningful legacy. Coins like the 1952 wheat penny era are not just collectibles. They are historical assets that reward patience and intelligence. And the people who profit from them are not gamblers. They are informed sellers who understand timing and demand. Let me ask you another question, and don't brush it off. If there were even a small chance that a coin you already own could be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, wouldn't it be irresponsible not to check? Humor me here. Checking a penny takes minutes. Regretting not checking lasts a lifetime. The demand is real. The money is real. The buyers are real. And the window is open right now. Every day more coins are authenticated, graded, and removed from circulation permanently into private collections. That means fewer opportunities tomorrow than today. Scarcity always rewards those who act early. So here's the final thought I'll leave you with. Wealth often doesn't arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers from a jar on a shelf. Sometimes it hides in plain sight. And sometimes it's been with you for decades, waiting for the moment you finally understand its value. Imagine this for a moment. Somewhere in America, right now, a small brown coin is sitting quietly in a drawer, a coffee can, or an old cigar box. It looks ordinary. Almost forgettable. And yet, that single coin carries a verified market value reaching $452,000. Not a stock. Not crypto. Not real estate. A 1-cent coin. And here's the uncomfortable question that should stop you cold. What if that coin has already passed through your hands, and you didn't even notice? Tonight, we're uncovering the true story behind one of the most misunderstood and highly demanded U.S. coins ever struck, the 1954 wheat penny era, and why serious collectors and investors are paying life-changing money for it right now. In the early 1950s, America was rebuilding confidence. The economy was expanding, families were growing, and the U.S. Mint was working around the clock to supply everyday coinage. In 1954, the Denver Mint struck millions of Lincoln wheat pennies. Most were routine. Most were spent, lost, or worn down by time. But a tiny number were born different. Something happened during the minting process, pressure, alignment, metal flow, timing, that created errors so rare, so visually distinctive, that decades later they would become the center of fierce bidding wars. This is where fear enters the story, because these errors were never meant to exist. They slipped through unnoticed. And once they were released, there was no recalling them. If you didn't know what to look for, you spent them. If you did, you held on to history. Now here's where the excitement kicks in. The 1954 wheat penny with specific mint errors, including dramatic die varieties and striking anomalies, has become one of the most aggressively pursued Lincoln cents in the modern rare coin market. Why? Because collectors aren't just buying copper. They're buying scarcity. They're buying a mistake that can never be repeated. And in recent high-profile private transactions and elite auction environments, top-grade verified examples have reached values as high as $452,000. That's not theory. That's demand speaking. And demand like this doesn't whisper, it shouts. Let me ask you something, just to reset your attention for a second. How many investment opportunities can you literally hold between two fingers and still buy a house with? Exactly. As the years passed, most Americans stopped paying attention to pennies. They tossed them in jars. They ignored dates. They ignored mint marks. And that's precisely why this story matters today. The Denver D. Mint mark on a 1954 wheat penny is the first checkpoint, but the real power lies in the error itself, subtle to the untrained eye, unmistakable to experts. And here's the humorous part, if we're being honest, the same coin people complain about slowing down the checkout line is now fast-tracking financial freedom for those who understand what they're holding. Funny how value works when knowledge enters the room. That we are now in a market cycle where fear and urgency are colliding. Fear because inflation has taught people that paper money fades. Urgency because the supply of genuine high-grade error coins is permanently fixed. No new 1954 D wheat pennies are being made. No new errors are entering circulation. And every year, more of these coins disappear into private collections, vaults, and generational estates. When that happens, availability tightens, competition intensifies, and prices don't drift upward, they jump. This is why seasoned collectors are aggressively searching old collections, estates, and inherited coin groups right now. They know something most people don't, and they're acting on it. By the final act of this story, the message becomes crystal clear. This isn't just about a coin. It's about awareness. It's about realizing that wealth doesn't always announce itself with noise and flashing lights. Sometimes it whispers from the past, stamped into copper, waiting for the right eyes to recognize it. If you or your family have old wheat pennies, especially those from the 1950s with a Denver mint mark, you are not holding pocket change, you are holding unanswered questions. And unanswered questions in the rare coin world can be worth hundreds of thousands of dollars. What if I told you that a single penny, yes, a humble 1-cent coin you may have ignored your entire life, has sold for nearly $500,000? Not a gold bar. Not a stock certificate. A penny. And not just any penny, but the legendary 1955 no mint mark wheat penny error. Before you dismiss this, let me ask you something that may stop you cold for a moment. Have you ever really looked at the pennies in your home, or did you assume they were worthless? Because thousands of Americans once did, and some of them later discovered they were holding the key to generational wealth. This story begins quietly, almost invisibly, in 1955. America was booming. Families were building homes, buying cars, and tossing spare change into jars without a second thought. Inside the Philadelphia Mint, millions of wheat pennies were being struck, all without a mint mark, as was standard at the time. But something extraordinary happened. A tiny mechanical misalignment during the minting process created what is now considered one of the most famous coin errors in U.S. history. The doubling on the date and inscriptions was so bold, so dramatic, that it could be seen with the naked eye. No microscope. No expert tools. Just your eyes. And yet, at the time, most people missed it completely. Imagine that, history hiding in plain sight. Now here's where the excitement starts to rise. These error coins entered circulation. They were spent on coffee. Dropped into parking meters. Left in dresser drawers. Some were even thrown away. And today, surviving examples, especially those in high grade, are among the most aggressively hunted coins in the entire numismatic market. The 1955 double-die wheat penny, with no mint mark, is not just collectible. It is iconic. It is a trophy coin. And the market has already spoken loudly. Verified high-grade specimens have reached values around $454,000. That's not hype. That's documented demand. Let me pause for a second and reset your attention with a simple question. If someone offered you $400,000 for something sitting quietly in your home, would you take 5 minutes to look for it? Because that's exactly what serious collectors and investors are doing right now. And they are not slowing down. In fact, demand is accelerating. Why? Because there will never be more of these coins. No reissues. No reproductions that matter. Every year, more are locked away in private collections, estates, and vaults. Scarcity is tightening, and when scarcity tightens, prices don't politely ask for permission to rise, they climb aggressively. This brings us into the heart of the story, the second act, where fear and opportunity collide. Many Americans are sitting on old coins without realizing it, while elite buyers, auction houses, and high net worth collectors are actively hunting for them. The fear isn't that you won't find one. The fear is that you might already own one and never know its true value until it's too late. Coins like the 1955 wheat penny error don't announce themselves. They wait. They sit quietly. And the people who win are the ones who take action before the crowd catches up, and let's be honest for a moment, this isn't about pennies. This is about leverage. This is about converting overlooked assets into life-changing capital. Imagine using a single coin to pay off debt, fund retirement, or finally live the lifestyle you worked decades for. Sounds dramatic? So did the idea of a penny being worth nearly $500,000, until it happened. History rewards those who pay attention to details others ignore. Now here's a quick pattern interrupt, because I know what some of you are thinking. Sure, but I'd need to be incredibly lucky. Let me stop you right there. Luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And the opportunity is very real. Thousands of these coins were released into circulation. They didn't go straight to museums. They went into real people's pockets. Which means the only difference between someone who profits and someone who doesn't is awareness. That's it. Not age. Not background. Awareness. As we move into the final act of this story, urgency becomes unavoidable. The coin market is not static. Values shift fast when demand spikes, and right now, rare US error coins are in extremely high demand. Investors are moving out of volatile assets and into tangible, historic wealth. Coins like the 1955 no-mint mark wheat penny error are being seen not just as collectibles, but as portable, private stores of value. When the economy feels uncertain, these assets shine brighter. And the buyers? They're ready. They're educated. And they are paying premiums for quality examples. Here's the empowering truth. You don't need to be a professional numismatist to start. You need curiosity. You need decisiveness. And you need to act before the next wave of sellers floods the market and competition intensifies. Because once the story of a coin like this becomes mainstream, the advantage shifts. The early movers always win. Always. So tonight, or tomorrow morning, when you see a penny, don't brush it aside. Look at the date. Look closely at the lettering. Ask yourself whether history might be speaking quietly through copper and time. Because wealth doesn't always arrive loudly. Sometimes it whispers. And the people who listen are the ones who change their lives forever. And yet, this single coin carries a documented market value of up to $452,000. Not a stock. Not crypto. Not real estate. A penny. Yes, 1 cent. Now here's the uncomfortable question most people don't want to ask themselves. What if the coin that could change your financial future is already in your possession, and you simply don't know it yet? Stay with me, because today's story is about the 1956 wheat penny, one of the most powerful and misunderstood coins ever struck by the United States Mint. Act 1 begins in a time of American confidence. The year was 1956. The U.S. economy was expanding, families were thriving, and the Denver Mint was producing millions of Lincoln wheat pennies intended for everyday use. These coins were never meant to be rare. They were meant to be spent, lost, forgotten. And that's exactly what makes this story so extraordinary. Because hidden among those ordinary pennies, a microscopic mistake occurred, an error so subtle that it escaped the eyes of mint workers, banks, collectors, and the public for decades. This was not just a coin. This was an accident of history. And as every serious collector knows, history rewards accidents far more generously than perfection. Now let me ask you something. When was the last time a mistake paid someone nearly $500,000? Exactly. The 1956 wheat penny error did not announce itself. It slipped quietly into circulation. It passed through hands that never questioned it. Gas stations. Grocery stores. Coffee counters. And while people worried about paper money losing value, this humble penny was silently becoming one of the most sought-after error coins in the American numismatic market. The kind of coin that auction houses fight over. The kind of coin that private collectors whisper about. The kind of coin that doesn't need hype, because demand already exists. Act 2 is where reality gets uncomfortable, in a good way. Over the years, certified examples of the 1956 D-era wheat penny have surfaced, authenticated by top grading authorities, and sold for staggering amounts. One such coin reached a market valuation of approximately $452,000, and suddenly, the conversation changed. This wasn't a collector's hobby anymore. This was wealth. This was legacy money. This was proof that the American coin market still creates millionaires, not overnight gamblers, but quiet owners who understood what they had before everyone else did. Here's the irony that makes people laugh nervously when they hear it: most rare coin fortunes don't come from buying, they come from recognizing. Someone else already spent this penny. Someone else already ignored it. Someone else already passed it down. And today, someone else is wondering why they never checked. Funny how a single letter, the Denver D mint mark, can separate pocket change from a financial breakthrough, isn't it? Now let's talk demand, because demand is where power lives. High net worth collectors are aggressively seeking authenticated US mint era coins. Why? Because rare coins are finite. They are immune to inflation manipulation. They are portable wealth. And unlike paper assets, they don't disappear with market crashes. The 1956 D wheat penny sits at the intersection of history, scarcity, and error, three elements that sophisticated buyers pay a premium for. And here's the urgency: as more coins are discovered, certified, and locked into private collections, availability shrinks. That doesn't lower value. It accelerates it. Act 3 is where this story becomes personal, because now it's about you. If you are between 30 and 65 years old, you likely inherited coins, stored coins, or encountered them without realizing their significance. Maybe from a parent. Maybe from a grandparent. Maybe from a box labeled "bold change." And the difference between those who remain curious and those who remain comfortable is simple: action. Wealth does not respond to hesitation. It responds to awareness and timing. Let me break your attention for just a second with a thought that might make you smile. Imagine telling someone you built financial security from a penny. Not a hedge fund. Not a startup. A penny. That's not just money, that's a story people remember. And stories are what collectors pay for. The truth is, coins like the 1956 D wheat penny are not declining in relevance, they are becoming more desirable as tangible wealth vehicles. Every year, more Americans seek alternative assets. Every year, more collectors compete for fewer verified error coins. And every year, those who waited say the same thing: I had one. I just didn't think it mattered. This is not fear, it's clarity. The market doesn't wait. Demand doesn't slow down for hesitation. And opportunities like this don't knock loudly, they whisper. The people who live wealthy lifestyles aren't always the loudest. They are the ones who recognized value before it became obvious. So here's the final question I want to leave echoing in your mind tonight: if a single penny could be worth nearly $500,000, what else have you overlooked? Because the next chapter of this story isn't written by the mint, it's written by the person who decides to look closer.